yeah, so recently I've also been working on some stuff with Unity again. So I've still been using Unity to do my honors project. I've also got my VR course nonsense where I'm doing Unity stuff as well. And for a while there, I was thinking, hey, maybe Unity isn't that bad. I was very wrong. No, Unity is actually still garbage. It's I don't know if it's just the older version of Unity that I'm running, because I've got two versions that I'm running. I'm running 2019.2 and 2018.4.5 LTS. And they're both very broken, and I can't imagine that newer versions of Unity are any less broken. So the problem I have with 2018.4.5 is, okay, on this system right here, I'm also running Windows. And on the Windows system, I've got my honors project working, and that all works, just fine. Then I went and pulled down the code on this right here. So this is a Microsoft Surface. I'll open the thing up. This is a Microsoft Surface. I'm sure you've seen Surfaces before. I don't have much to say about a Surface. Anyway, I went and installed Unity 2018.4.5 on that, and I downloaded the code, and I tried to run the code, and there were build errors, which didn't make sense because I was running the exact same code on this computer. So I went and copied the code over with a USB because maybe for some reason there was just a problem putting it into Git. I thought maybe that would be the issue. And then I tried to run the code again. Still didn't work. And it was saying, oh, you're missing some assembly references for TM Pro, and TM Pro is one of the default installed packages. That's Text Mesh Pro. So if we go look it up, Unity Text Mesh Pro 2018. Let's see if we can find it. There is a known problem with Text Mesh Pro in 2018, and the problem sort of should it only exist if you're trying to migrate the project from an older version to a newer version. However, I'm not doing that. So all of these fixes for what's wrong with Text Mesh Pro don't work. So I don't know what the actual problem was, how I should go about fixing it, just even remotely where I should look for it, because I've tried to do everything that has been suggested for methods to fix it for this case right here, like clearing out your package cache. I've tried to reinstall it with a package manager. However, the Unity package manager is also missing as well. So it is possible that for some reason the install of Unity just didn't get done right. I don't know how it's possible, but it's very possible that that is what has actually happened here. Because even if I start up a new project, we have the exact same problem. So I'm guessing, yeah, it's probably that, but my solution, because I don't care, I don't actually need to run it on the Surface. All I need this Surface for is for the multi-touch, because I can't say too much about it, but the project I'm doing now is no longer a VR project. It's still the data visualization stuff, but it's now using a multi-touch screen instead of VR. So all I needed was the multi-touch input. So luckily, in Windows 10, there is this feature called, I think, Cast or something. I don't remember the exact name. You can do it with like third-party tools as well, but it's built into Windows now. So you can basically cast a computer to another computer, and it theoretically should just magically work. Now, I had a weird problem where, for some reason, it was like, you're not on a secure network, and it just wouldn't work. So I was like, okay, just let it work on any network. And luckily that managed to fix it. So basically all I'm doing now is casting my main system over to the Surface and then running it like that. And it works fine. It manages to pass the multi-touch input through just fine. It manages to... It's a little laggy because it's doing it over Wi-Fi. Because obviously the Surface doesn't have a Ethernet port. And if I was to put this... Actually... I wonder. Maybe I could plug in my USB Ethernet adapter to the Surface and then do Ethernet over with my desktop as well, and then that would work? Maybe? I don't know. but it's fine. It works well enough where I can test the input, because that's all I need to do. Once I know the input's working, I can kind of just ignore the fact that the surface exists. And yeah, I wish that was the end of the problems though, because the problems continue from there. Now, I don't like game engines on the best of days. I think they're kind of a waste of time, and you might as well just go and do everything with libraries. So, I love that. The first thing that comes up when you type in libgdx is libgdx versus Unity. So, I genuinely do not like game engines. I think they're a big waste of time, and you might as well go use a game library like libgdx, or go use like OpenGL directly. It's going to be just fine for you. The reason why you use an engine is because an engine is supposed to, make things easier. It's supposed to handle things that you don't need to handle yourself. Why does this have support for BlackBerry devices? Sure. What? I did not know I had support for BlackBerry. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off track there. The reason you use a game engine is to make things easier. However, Unity does not do that. In some cases, it actually makes things significantly harder. So if you run, at least in 2019.2, 2018.4.5, if you run input.touches and you run get mouse button down 0, whatever the command is to get the mouse input. If you run that, like those two commands, they will both return true when you touch the screen. So if you are touching the screen, it counts it as both a touch input and also a regular mouse input, which means you actually have to conditionally handle both of them at the same time if you want to do touch input. Now, this doesn't sound like that big of a deal, except for the fact that this is what a game engine is supposed to do. It's supposed to make things like this easier, so I don't have to think about, this is how, handling basic input should be done. Handling basic input is something that should be done by the engine itself. I shouldn't have to say, I'm touching the screen, I'm clicking the mouse, am I also not touching the screen? That's not something I should have to do. Obviously, if I do want to do some hacky stuff where I'm doing both at the same time, that's different. But if I am just regularly touching the screen, that should not be counted as a mouse click. And it took me like 3 or 4 hours to realize what was happening here, because my input manager was basically doubling up on every input. I was like, why? Because I've got an action on double tap. So when I touch the screen, that counts it as a tap and also a click. So that means that's going to count as a double tap. And basically, that action was running all the time. And I was like, why is this working? It's not, like, I was looking at the code where it should be getting handled for touch input, and I was like, there's nothing happening here. What is going on? And lo and behold, it was Unity being garbage. So, yeah, if you do want to get into game development, I know that a lot of people, are like, you should use Unity or you should use Unreal. Unless you're doing some like AAA title, unless you're doing some like really big game, a game engine is going to be detrimental for you. I really believe that. If you want to do any sort of just entry-level game development, unless you're specifically doing the game development for the sake of learning Unity, just don't. Just don't use a game engine. Just use a library. Now, this is talking from the perspective of someone who has never released a game myself, but I do know how god-awful using Unity is. So, I'm going to say don't use it. I'm not saying you have to use something like libgdx. As I said, you could use OpenGL, or there are plenty of other examples out there that you could use. Libgdx is a Java and a whatever the thing on Java that's being replaced. Whatever is replacing Java on Android. There might be other bindings though. I don't actually know. Let's see. Yeah, I think it looks like it's just Java. Okay. So yeah, maybe libgdx isn't really the best one to choose from, just because Java is don't develop games in Java. It's a bad idea. I've used libgdx before. Just don't. But if you are doing any game development, just ignore the fact that it exists. That's another thing. So with my current project, I'm doing it in 2019.2. So basically, I'm completely ignoring the fact that you can do things like find in the like Unity hierarchy, because that's really slow. So I'm just forgetting that all that exists because it's dumb. So instead of that, what I'm doing is when I create an object, I'm just keeping a reference to it in my game data and then working from there. Because that's much quicker to look up instead of being like, oh, I'm going to search this big tree for an object that I don't know if it even exists. Like, no, just split up your object into arrays. The arrays will be much smaller. Also use arrays. Don't use lists, because lists are going to aggravate your garbage collector. Unless Unity is messing with the C# garbage collector in the background, I don't see really, anything being beneficial from using the built-in Unity methods. Plus, as I said, searching the tree is just inherently slow. So, yeah, don't do that.